Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Sodanandana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachariti Yamuna Tira Vanachariti Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Yamuna Tira vanacharya. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pravajankacharya Astacharya Srila Shishiman, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Anantakota Vaishnavanda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Prem Sikha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopiya Samakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vandavandam Ki Jai, Shri Maya Parnavidam Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Gau Premanandi. All glory to some of the devotees, all glory to some of the devotees, all glory to some of the devotees, all glory to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, this evening we're reading from the Bhagavad Gita, as it is. This is Chapter 2, text number 22. Vasangsi janani yata vihaya navani karnoti naraparani tatassarirani vihaya janani anyani sanyati navani dehi. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Purport. Change of body by the atomic individual soul is an accepted fact. Even the modern scientists who do not believe in the existence of the soul, but at the same time cannot explain the source of energy from the heart, have to accept continuous changes of body which appear from childhood to boyhood, and from boyhood to youth, and again from youth to old age. From old age, the change is transferred to another body. This has already been explained in a previous verse, 2:13. Transference of the atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of the Supersoul. The Supersoul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. The Vedas, like the Muṇḍaka Upaniṣad, as well as the Śvetāśvatara Upaniṣad, compare the soul and the Supersoul to two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. One of the birds, the individual atomic soul, is eating the fruit of the tree, and the other bird, Krsna, is simply watching his friend. Of these two birds, although they are the same in quality, one is captivated by the fruits of the material tree, while the other is simply witnessing the activities of his friend. Krsna is the witnessing bird and Arjuna is the eating bird. Although they are friends, one is still the master and the other is the servant. Forgetfulness of this relationship by the atomic soul is the cause of one's changing his position from one tree to another, or from one body to another. The jīva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of the material body, but as soon as he agrees to accept the other bird as the supreme spiritual master, as Arjuna agreed to do by voluntary surrender unto Krsna for instruction, the subordinate bird immediately becomes free from all lamentations. Both the Muṇḍaka Upaniṣad and the Śvetāśvatara Upaniṣad confirm this. Quote, although the two birds are in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness as the enjoyer of the fruits of the tree. But if in some way or other he turns his face to his friend, who is the Lord and knows his glories, at once the suffering bird becomes free from all anxieties. Arjuna has now turned his face towards his eternal friend Krishna and is understanding the Bhagavad Gita from him. And thus, hearing from Krishna, he can understand the supreme glories of the Lord and be free from lamentation. Arjuna is here advised herewith by the Lord not to lament for the bodily change of his old grandfather and his teacher. He should rather be happy to kill their bodies in the righteous fight so that they may be cleansed at once of all reactions from various bodily activities. One who lays down his life on the sacrificial altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of bodily reactions and promoted to a higher status of life. So there was no cause for Arjuna's lamentation. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshum Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukram Kotavatalang Pangunlang Hayate Garim Yat Kripatalaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Vanchakalpatribhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Here Krishna is letting us know more about the soul. It's like I have these clothes on here. Eventually they're going to get old and I'm going to get new clothes. So similarly this body is going to get old. And depending on my consciousness, I could either go back to the spiritual world, which is the goal. Actually, Prabhupada mentions that when one becomes a pure devotee and he leaves his body, he goes to a place where Krishna is performing his pastimes, somewhere in the many universes. And he has exchanges with Krishna and all the cowherd friends and cowherd girls and gets trained up on how to live in Vrindavan. So that's the actual goal of the human form of life, is to become pure, so that we can go there and participate in Krishna's pastimes in the spiritual world. But if we don't become pure devotees, then we have to continue on in the cycle of birth and death called samsara. Now the human form of life is it's an opportunity. It's the loophole on how to get out of this cycle of birth and death, samsara. It's the only way to get out of this cycle. But one has to take this human form of life very seriously to get out of this cycle. And therefore Krishna comes and he gives us this knowledge, Bhagavad Gita. Also we have the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. These literatures give us an opportunity to hear about Krishna. And by hearing about Krishna, we get purified. From hearing comes understanding. So, this body is just a dress for the soul. The soul will continue according to our karma. We're like the architects of our future. Prabhupada gives a nice story of a lady, a very wealthy lady, multi-millionaire. Big mansion. At one point in her life she decided she wanted to have a bird. So she went to this bird sanctuary and found the bird she wanted, but she needed a cage. So she's very wealthy, so she had this special cage made for this bird. It had all kinds of jewelry on it, and beautiful, very expensive. So she put this bird in this cage, and she had it in her home, and she was so enamored by this cage. She would polish it and admire it, but she became so infatuated with the cage, she forgot about the bird. So what happened to the bird? The bird died. Yeah. So throughout the world, people are infatuated with the body, trying to make the body look good. Yeah. But what's more important than the body is the soul. This is what is most important. Imagine if I'm speaking to you, we're having a conversation, and then you start speaking to me, and instead of listening to you, I'm admiring your coat. Such a beautiful coat. And your shirt also, such a nice shirt. And I'm not even listening. That'd be kind of rude, right? Not paying attention. So, yeah, we have to pay attention to the instructions that are given to us by Krishna. Very valuable instructions. Timeless wisdom. Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavatam. If we hear attentively, then we could come to an understanding that we're actually the soul within. We're not this dress. We're not this cage. The body's also like a cage. We're stuck in this cage. So yeah, hearing. Therefore it's stated, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Pada Sevanam. That sometimes when I distribute books, people ask me, so I tell them, the goal is to serve God. So how do you serve God? So I tell them, by hearing this book, by reading this book, you're doing great service to yourself and to God. You're pleasing God. Just by reading this book, you're doing great service. And when you read something that you like, share it with another person. Kirtanam, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Padaseva. Then from that hearing, chanting, you remember. So this is the goal, is to remember Krishna. There's so many instructions in the Vedic literatures, but there's the statement, Smartavya Saratang Vishnu, or Vishmartavya Najatu Chit. That there's so many instructions, but the most important instruction is that one should always remember and never forget Krishna. This is the perfection of the human form of life. And we're getting so much guidance from Krishna, from Srila Prabhupada also. I was listening to a lecture by Prabhupada this morning, and he gave a very nice example. When he was coming from India, he was on this boat, and he was in the Atlantic Ocean, and all he could see was water everywhere. So he would ask the captain, where are we? So the captain would tell him, well, Italy's just over there, and there's some islands over here. And so Prabhupada inquired from this person, because he knew this person. He's a navigator. He's been across the ocean so many times. But where did he get his information from? From previous sailors. Yeah. He got the information from them. So a person could navigate across the ocean, no problem. You have all the information there. Yeah. So this person, this captain, knew where he was, and he knew where he was going. So the spiritual master also gives us guidance. Yeah. He helps us go the right direction, yeah, so we don't get deviated. And Krishna, he gives us so much instruction to put us in the path. We should have a goal in life. Like Helen Keller, she was being interviewed. Probably one of the most famous women in America. She's blind, deaf, and dumb. but she's one of the most famous women in America. So she was asked, that what could be worse than being born blind? And she said, to grow up and have no goal in life. That's worse. And so many people, no goal in life. What is their goal? Most people, what is the goal of most people in the world? To satisfy their senses. Yeah. To satisfy mind's desires. To satisfy the senses. But we're not the senses. We're not the mind. We're not this body. So it's a fallacious goal. It's a useless goal to just satisfy. Because this is what the animals are doing. Ahara nidra bhayamaitanam cha samanyameta pashabi naranam. That the animals and the human beings, they have 4 activities which are similar: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But the advantage of the human being is that we can inquire about the absolute truth. And we can get closer to the absolute truth. By this inquiry, by this in service, by this devotional service, we can get closer to Krishna. So this is the advantage of the human form of life. We can inquire. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now is the time to inquire about the absolute truth. There's so many people that are inquiring. Even the bird, they're inquiring, where is food? Where is food? The animals are inquiring, where is food? Where is water? But if the human being is only doing this, then we're no better than polished animals. Dvipada pashu. 2-legged animals. So the major problem in the world is that people think they're their body. I'm American. I'm Brazilian. I'm Russian. I'm Chinese. I'm Japanese. But actually, this is something called skin disease. It's a skin disease. Yeah. It's a pandemic, right? This is the major pandemic in the world. Skin disease, right? And people are so absorbed in this body, just satisfying the senses, satisfying the body. But this body is going to die. Why put so much energy in something that's going to die? Better put one's energy in that which is going to live. Yeah. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a statement that, see if I could remember it. It's not coming. Oh, well, maybe it'll come later on. But the idea is that this body is an opportunity to become actually very wealthy spiritually. Prema dana vanavyahai daridra jivan dasikori vitanimora deha prema dana. Lord Chaitanya said that if one does not have love for Krishna, one is considered to be a poor soul. Daridra jivan means a poor soul. Therefore, my dear Lord Krishna, please engage me in your service, and all I want as salary is love for you. This is what a devotee wants for salary. This is the highest salary. Yeah. Someone may be a billionaire, multi-billionaire, but they don't have love for Krishna. Daridra jivan. It's a poor soul. But one may not have any wealth at all. Just like there were so many devotees in Vrindavan. The 6 Goswamis, they were living under a different tree every night. Homeless. Jesus Christ also, he was homeless, wandering. But they were all filthy rich. Very wealthy. rich because the purity of their heart. So this is real wealth, and we should aspire to get this wealth of devotion to Krishna. It's like we have this book called The Nectar of Devotion. To engage in devotional service to Krishna is the real nectar, the real wealth, the real desire of the living entity. But because people are in Maya throughout the world, they don't know. So therefore, Prabhupada, he wanted people to know. And therefore, he started this book distribution. Actually, it began with Bhaktivinoda Thakur book distribution. Because in 1896, he sent the first book on Vaishnavism here to the West. And he inspired his son as well. And they were distributing so many books in India. And then Prabhupada came, and he wanted everybody to hear about Krishna. And this book distribution is how people got this opportunity to hear about Krishna. Otherwise, people, they just go on in the bodily conception of life, and thinking that they're the body. So people think that that this is their body, but actually this body belongs to Krishna. He's the owner. We're like we're the proprietor. We're within it, but it's not ours. Just like someone may be renting an apartment, they're renting the apartment. It's not their apartment. So we're also renting this apartment. It's not ours. It belongs to Krishna. So this body should be utilized in the service of Krishna. Otherwise, if we utilize it for ourselves, own sense gratification, then we're like thieves, taking somebody else's property and utilizing it for our own sense gratification. Just like imagine some wealthy person, he decides he wants to build a house, and he hires some carpenters to build the house. And after it's finished, the carpenters decide to keep the house for themselves. Be a problem there, right? It's illegal. It's not their house. They were hired. They were just working. So Krishna created these bodies. They're not our bodies. So they're meant to be utilized in the service of Krishna, not for our own sense gratification. So it's time. Is there any questions or comments or reflections? Yes, the microphone is somewhere. There it is. Just now coming.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Vijay Prabhu. So, in this verse, that we're not this body, and the analogy of the cage, and the bird is dead. So we know that the soul never dies, but the analogy is appropriate because we're just polishing the body or the cage. So to have a realization daily, hopefully, that we are eternal because we're surrounded by so much, the nature of temporary. Everything's the end of everything, end of the game, end of day, end of the meal. So what is your realization? How do you remind yourself daily that you're eternal? Because all of us grow up without being taught that we're actually eternal. We're all go out for all you can with your body. So how is that you remain fixed up like that?
Mm-hmm. Well, by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This is one of the benefits of chanting Hare Krishna, that we eventually realize I'm the soul within, and it's the soul that's chanting for service to Krishna. And of course, reading. Prabhupada was given a lecture on this point, how we're not the body, and he had been speaking on this for about 5 days, how we're not the body. And one of these students in the audience said, Swamiji, you've been discussing this for the past 5. Can we go to something further beyond this? We're not the body. And Prabhupada asked him, do you know you're not the body? No. Well, then we're going to continue. So just to understand, to realize that we're not this body, that's a big step. It's a big step. Because we've been in the material world a long time, in various bodies, thinking we're those bodies, and now here we are again thinking we're this body. So this conditioning is there, this bodily conception. It's very difficult to overcome this bodily conception of life. But possible by practice and by detachment. There's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says that it's undoubtedly very difficult to control the mind, but it's possible by constant practice and detachment. Now I could understand practice, like anything, you practice, it makes perfect, right? But detachment, how is that? How do we control the mind by detachment? By detaching ourselves from the body, understanding that we're not this body, we're not the mind. The mind will say so many things. Yeah. As Arjuna said, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati bhalavadridham. That this mind is very flickering. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati. Pramati means it's mad. Imagine you're associating with somebody that's mad. You want to get away from him, right? Somebody's just crazy, mad, you just want to get away. You don't want to associate with. We have a mad entity right with us. It's the mind. Pramati, balavad. Balavad means it's very strong. Dridham, it's determined. And it's more difficult to control than the wind. So, by this process of devotional service, we're practicing and gradually become more and more detached from the body. And we become more and more aware of who we are as the soul, as part of Krishna.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'll get it.
Just following up with the same question in a way. So when we're thinking something, right, it's our mind, and when we're feeling something, it's our heart. But sometimes, like we just get intuitive and we just do things.
We get what?
When you feel like intuitive.
Intuitive,
Yeah.
okay.
So could that be your soul trying to like guide you at that time?
Intuition. Yes, that's the soul. The super soul's also there. Paramatma is in the heart. The soul is in the heart. So it's just like spiders. I mean, spiders are amazing entities. They're able to make these amazing spider webs. So where does that come from? The super soul. There's a soul in the super soul. The super soul's guidance. So the super soul gives us this guidance. We have this conscience. We think something we're going to do, and we think it's wrong. We don't do it. That's our conscience. So that's the super soul saying, "This is not good. Don't do that." Yeah. So the goal of life is to take guidance from Krishna, from the super soul. But to do that, we also have to be clean. We have to desire. We have to desire that. We have to desire to want to serve Krishna. If we're dirty and we have so many material desires and we don't have a desire to serve Krishna, it's a very unfortunate position. So therefore, devotees pray to Krishna to serve him, to be given the ability and the sincerity to serve him. And this is the perfection of utilizing our intuition properly, to engage in loving service to Krishna, because he's always guiding. Prabhupada says in one purport that Krishna, he is never inattentive in trying to help us back to him. He's always trying to help us. But we have to be attentive. We have to hear nicely. And then Krishna will help us more and more and more. You had a question? Or you have a question? Okay, yes. Or comment? Or
Well, I remember when I was first learning the philosophy and started to experiment with the chanting, all of a sudden I became perplexed as I heard all this talk about becoming a pure devotee. And, like you were saying, can do it by constantly, practicing and becoming detached. But then this doubt came over, well, what if I fail? What if I don't make it? And then the devotees quoted that verse, Nihabhi Kramanashosti.
mm-hmm.
Could you speak about that just a little bit?
Any service we do for Krishna, it goes in our spiritual bank account. Not like the bank accounts here, where they can get depleted. Right? Whatever we do for Krishna, it's eternally there in our bank account. So, in our next life, we pick up from where we end in this life. Yeah. So Krishna sees what we're doing, and he gives guidance. Now we're still in the samsara. We're still in the cycle of birth and death. But because we've engaged in devotional service, Krishna sees that, and we get an opportunity in our next life to take it up again. Just like there's some people that got Prabhupada's books, and immediately they were attracted. Immediately, and became devotees. Some people, they'll read the whole Bhagavad Gita and can't figure out what it was about. Just can't understand anything about it. So this is due to past lives. That some people are able to pick up immediately, and some people can't understand at all. Pious merits from past life. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We have a question. I've been avoiding getting cornered and caged in all my life, and now you're saying I'm caged in, and I'm kind of nervous about that. How can I?
I didn't catch the beginning.
The beginning is all my life I've avoided, getting cornered and caged in, and so now you're saying that I'm in this body that's caged in, and how do I deal with, feeling that way?
Yeah, well, it's not a nice feeling, is it?
No, I'm mad.
Because the nature of the soul is, as Prabhupada mentions in one purport, that the nature of the soul, it wants to be free. It wants to be free to express itself and to be free of the modes of material nature. See, we're under these modes of material nature, which makes it very difficult to get out of this cage, this body. Krishna says, Daivi hesa gana mayi mama maya dharatiya mame viye papajante maya mitram tarantite. That this divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. But one who surrenders unto me can very easily cross beyond it. So this is how to get out of the cage. We have to surrender to Krishna. Now, generally, when we hear surrender, it's like remember the old cowboy movies, surrender, you put your hands, surrender. But this is more like understanding our position as spirit souls, part and parcel of Krishna, and living the teachings that He's given. This is surrender. Yeah. And there's a verse, Anukoyasya Sankalpa Pratikoyasya Varjan Rakshishititi Visvasu Goptate Saranamyata. These are the 6 processes of surrender. To accept things that are favorable for devotional service. Like what we're doing here is very favorable. We're hearing from Bhagavad Gita. And we're having kirtan, chanting Hare Krishna. There's 5 things that are very favorable for devotional service. What we're doing here, sadhu sangha, associating with devotees. Sadhu sangha nam kirtan, chanting Hare Krishna. Sadhu sangha nam kirtan, Bhagavat Shravana, to hear Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Sadhu sangha nam kirtan, Bhagavat Shravana, Mathura Vas, to live in the holy places, to live in the temple, or to live in Vrindavan or Mayapur, or sometimes people, they turn their home into a temple. Many devotees, their home is a temple. Yeah. And then, what is it? Sadhu Sangha Nam Kirtan Bhagavat Shravana Mathura Vashri Mathura Sudhaya Sevan. And to worship the deity with faith. These are 5 activities that are very favorable for devotional service, for helping us get out of this cage. And also rejecting things that are unfavorable. Now, this is Pacific Beach, where you have to reject a lot of stuff, a lot of Maya area. In San Diego, in the world in general, there's a lot of Maya. This is Maya's kingdom, so there's a lot of things we have to reject. This is another type of surrender. So Anukoyasya Sankalpa Pratikoyasya Rakshishititi, that to accept Krishna as my only protection. Krishna will protect me in all circumstances. Krishna will maintain me. Sometimes people are in anxiety, how will I be maintained? But God is so kind, He's maintaining everyone. Everyone is being maintained by Krishna. Even the atheists who are against Him, they're being maintained by Krishna. Everyone is being maintained by Krishna. So we don't have to pray to God, give us our daily bread. It's coming to everyone, all living entities, everything is coming. So Prabhupada said, we're not interested in this bread business with God. No, we want to serve Krishna. This is the perfection of the human form of life. Okay, anything else? Okay. So now we'll have some, is there a kirtan now? So there's going to be a kirtan, and then we'll have prasadam. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.